Welcome back, focused learners, to Decode Healthcare with Harshal. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here for part 64 of our 100-part ICD-10-CM Guideline Explainer series. Today, we're officially stepping into the wild world of Chapter 20, External Causes of Morbidity, which covers code categories V00 through Y99. This is the exact point where we stop looking at just the medical diagnosis itself and start playing detective to figure out exactly how a patient got hurt. But hey, fair warning, there are some incredibly strict CMS laws about how these codes are used, and messing them up will get your claims bounced back instantly. So, here's our game plan for today's explainer. We're going to cover the Never Principles Law, building the Big Four stack, the one-time only rule, seventh character alignment, and finally putting it all together for the perfect claim. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the Never Principle Law. We've got to start with the absolute, unbreakable cardinal rule of Chapter 20. External causes of morbidity, those V, W, X, and Y codes, they are strictly secondary support codes. Think of them as descriptive tags. They exist purely to capture the how, the where, and the what. Like, how did the injury happen? Where exactly did it happen? And what was the patient doing at the time? These codes tell the story, but they can never, ever stand on their own as a primary diagnosis. If you try to put an external cause code, like, say, a fall from a ladder, into slot number 1 on your claim form, well, the payer's system is going to instantly reject it. Why? Because falling off a ladder isn't actually a medical diagnosis, right? It's an event. You treat the broken leg, not the fall itself. So to create a clean claim, your primary medical injury sits proudly right up there in slot 1, and the external cause code drops neatly into slot 2 to support it. Moving right along to Section 2, building the Big Four stack. So how exactly do we architect these secondary codes? Well, CMS guidelines give us a very specific blueprint for stacking them. Step 1 is the cause of injury, which covers categories V00 through Y84. This identifies the actual mechanism of what happened. Step 2 is the place of occurrence, category Y92, pinpointing exactly where it happened. Step 3 is the activity code, category Y93, which tells us what the patient was doing. And finally, Step 4 is the external cause status, category Y99, identifying the person's work or duty status at the exact moment of the event. Okay, so you've built this beautiful, perfectly ordered 4-code stack for your patient's trip to the ER. But here's the million-dollar question. What happens when that exact same patient returns 2 weeks later for follow-up care? Do you code that entire stack all over again? That brings us perfectly to Section 3, the one-time only rule. The answer to that question introduces one of the most critical constraints in the CMS guidelines. Basically, certain codes have a very short lifespan. Place of occurrence, which is category Y92, and activity codes, category Y93, are strictly reported during the initial active treatment encounter only. Literally, you assign them once and you are done. The same goes for the status code, Y99. The payer really only needs to know that the patient fell at the home driveway while shoveling snow on that very first claim to establish liability. After that, they don't need to hear it again. Let's visualize this timeline to make it super clear. During Visit 1, the initial ER visit, you get the green light. The Y92 place code and Y93 activity code are totally active and reported. But for Visit 2, say a follow-up for a cast removal, those Y92 and Y93 codes are struck out. You will never record them during subsequent routine care or sequela visits. If you keep slapping them on follow-up claims, you're actually violating CMS guidelines for sure. Next up, Section 4. Seventh character alignment. Now that we've cleared out those one-time codes, let's look at how the remaining external cause codes lock together with the primary injury. Let's look closer at that 4th block of our stack, external cause status, category Y99. This basically answers the payer's question, was this person on the clock? So, Y99.0 means a civilian day job, Y99.1 is for military activity, and Y99.8 is for a student or volunteer. And remember, just like place and activity, you assign the status code only once at the initial encounter. But what about the cause of injury code, the very first part of our stack? Well, that code actually does carry over to future visits, and it requires a 7th character extension to track where the patient is in their healing life cycle. A stands for initial encounter, meaning the patient is getting active, aggressive treatment like surgery or an ER evaluation. D is for subsequent encounter, meaning they're now in the routine healing and recovery phase. And S is for sequela, which means a late effect or complication that came directly from the original injury, like, say, a scar from a burn. And here is the absolute unbreakable alignment law. The 7th character of your external cause code must perfectly mirror the primary injury code line for line. Think of it exactly like a lock and key. If your primary diagnosis for a fractured tibia ends in the letter A for initial encounter, your external cause code for the fall must also end in the letter A. If the patient comes back for a routine checkup, that fracture code changes to a D, right? Well, the external cause code has to flip to a D too. They must align perfectly to tell a totally consistent timeline of care. Finally, Section 5, the perfect claim. All right, let's bring all these laws together and look at our masterpiece, a completely rejection-proof claim. Step 1, sitting at the absolute top of the claim, is the primary injury. We've got S82.101A, an active initial encounter for a fractured right tibia. Only after that do our secondary blocks drop into place. Step 2 is the cause, a fall from a ladder with a seventh character A matching that fracture perfectly. Step 3 is place, Y92.010 for home. Step 4, activity, Y93.H1 for maintenance. And Step 5, status, Y99.0 showing they were at a civilian pay job. The narrative is crystal clear, perfectly sequenced, and totally guideline compliant. If there is one golden rule to walk away with today, it's absolutely this. External causes must stack below the primary injury. Literally never in slot 1, always as supporting evidence. If we follow this rule and align those seventh characters, our claims are going to sail through processing without a single hiccup. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 20. So next time you look at a rejected claim form, just ask yourself, wait, did I try to make an external event the main character of a medical story? You've got the foundation down solid now. But are you ready to conquer Chapter 21? In Part 65 of this explainer series, we are diving headfirst into the world of Z-codes, capturing factors that influence health status. Please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this explainer with your fellow coders so we can keep decoding healthcare together. Catch you in the next one.